Welcome to Fall River State of Mind, a monthly podcast where we will have uplifting conversations on mental health and social justice for Fall River's residents, leaders, and providers.
My name is Owen Ivey. I'm a social worker, a mental health therapist, a certified grief counselor, an advocate, and a Fall River resident.
Hey there, welcome back. This is Owen here at Fall River State of Mind. We are here for episode 5 of the Fall River State of Mind podcast. I want to continue to thank everyone who is watching and listening to the program. Your support means a lot. I know myself and my guests are grateful for the awareness we're building in the community. Our last episode, which actually turned into 2 episodes, on the topic of grief support here in Fall River, featuring Bob Malu, were 2 of our most viewed podcasts up to date. We're very grateful for those of you who watched and supported us. I am especially excited that there seem to be a growing number of folks who have found our program over the last couple of months and are tuning in each month for new content. It's good to know that there are folks out there who are interested in learning more about what's happening in our community in the fields of mental health and social justice. I hope this space can continue to be a place where we can share information on what's happening in our community and folks can connect with each other and talk about what's going on. I also hope we can continue to be a positive force in the public discourse. I hope that me, my guests, this podcast, and also our audience can continue to be that positive force and make a positive change in how we talk about Fall River, how we talk about mental health, and how we talk about social justice. I'm really excited for today's episode. Today, my guest is Kerrie Gallant. She is the Executive Director of the United Neighbors of Fall River. After seeing a bunch of different signs around the city for different programming that was going on, that all seemed kind of relatively new to me. It was encouraging to see that there were new programs popping up and new events happening, but I wanted to know who was behind all this. And the answer for a lot of these events came back to this organization, United Neighbors. And I had never really heard of this organization and certainly didn't know all the things they had their hands in. United Neighbors does an amazing job being involved in a lot of different things all at once and doing it well. I personally am trying to become more involved in the work being done at United Neighbors, and I hope after hearing from Kerrie today and learning more about this organization that you might want to get involved too. So without any further introduction, I hope you enjoy my chat with Kerrie Gallant, Executive Director of the United Neighbors of Fall River. Hi, Kerrie.
Hi, Owen.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
You bet.
We're in the new studio. People are going to notice, the audience will notice things are a bit different than they were last time. We're both new to this, so this will be fun. But yes, thank you for being here. I was glad to connect with you and your organization, and I'm glad to have you here where you can tell us more a bit more about United Neighbors and the work you guys are doing over there. I would love for the audience to get to know you a little bit first. So if you don't mind, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to being the executive director of United Neighbors?
Sure. Well, I'm a Dartmouth native. I grew up in the New Bedford area, went to New Bedford Voc, joined the military after high school, came back home, had my son, moved away, came back, went to college, all of that stuff. So I was a single mother for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm married now, but I met my husband. My son was about 20, 21. And even back then, he's going to be 31 this summer. So even back then, I realized it was difficult to navigate through the system. A lot of folks think people enjoy being on the system and that they work the system and that kind of thing. But It's actually really difficult. And I consider myself to be pretty intelligent, pretty tech savvy. I always worked, went to school, and just resources. There's a lot of resources out there, but they're not centralized. And when I was going through it, it wasn't really service providers that were telling me about other service providers. It was other moms who would be like, go here and apply for WIC, go here and apply for your daycare voucher, go here and apply for whatever.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah. So ever since my son was little, I always thought there has to be a better way of doing it. And I've always wanted to start up some kind of resource navigation, be it a website or a not-for-profit or what. And then about 5 years ago, I started working at United Neighbors. And I think like a lot of folks, I didn't fully understand what United Neighbors was at first. And then about,
Kind of like a neighborhood watch.
Yeah.
What you're talking about. Right?
And then, a couple of weeks into it, I quickly realized it was what I had always wanted to do.
Yeah, really.
That, the resource navigation, there's a resource guide. All Greater Fall River resources, all different, everything from child abuse to elder abuse, disability services, LGBTQ resources, the food pantries are in there, veterans services. Anything that you might need help with.
And everything, It seems like. I have been on your website a couple of times over the last few weeks, and it doesn't seem to stop, the list of things you folks are working on. So that's a credit to you, and we're going to get into that. I am curious, while we're talking about your personal experience here, what do you identify a certain time in your life where it was the hardest to get the resources you need or get the support you needed? Was it upon returning from the military, or was it as a young mother?
It was more as a young mother, yeah. I think. It was... I lived here in Massachusetts for the first 2 years. My son's father had a substance use disorder, so he was in and out of jail, in and out of rehabs, that kind of thing. And like I said, other than like SNAP benefits and WIC, I wasn't really aware of a lot of other resources. And then when my son was 2, I ended up moving out to Pennsylvania, where I had a friend from my time in the military, thinking that 2 single mothers sharing rent and sharing babysitting and, right. All of that stuff would make life a little bit easier. And then, of course, that didn't work out like planned. I moved back home, and went back to school. And so, that was the biggest thing, I think, having other mentors in my life. That's really what pushed me, like in my college career and my education. I'm first generation college.
Yeah, cool.
And then, that contact with other moms, once my son started going to a daycare and I was meeting other mothers, that's where I started to learn about different resources and stuff.
Which is impressive, because I think those conversations can be hard to have with folks, to admit that maybe you need help with something, unless somebody kind of opens that door and maybe tells you a little bit about what they're going through. I think it can be hard sometimes to say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Do you have any idea how I might, get some help?
Right. I think once you have that common denominator, like once you learn I'm a single mom, she's a single mom,
right,
then the ball kind of gets rolling from there,
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. You didn't have to, but it is nice to know kind of how you found yourself to this work. And I think having that lived experience, I'm sure, offers you a unique perspective. That's the trouble I think so many organizations, find themselves with is folks at the top, might get a little detached from, what's going on there with the folks who are actually utilizing their services. So it's nice when you can maybe have a better empathy for what people are going through. So so we've said the name. I introduced the organization in the intro, but you're going to do a much better job of it than I will. Tell us, what is United Neighbors? Because like I said, I think folks in the city, at least the ones I talk to, I'm not sure they know exactly what you folks are doing over there. So
perfect. So United Neighbors is actually a community connections coalition. There's about 21 of us across the state. We're funded through DCF, actually. So the way it was explained to me is that we're the prevention arm of DCF. So what that means is we try to get supports, resources, services in place to families before some kind of critical incident happens that would require DCF intervention. So if you or any of your listeners are familiar with the Family Resource Center, more folks tend to be familiar with the Family Resource Center. They're our cousin organization. So they're also funded through DCF. There's about 30 of those across the state. But they tend to work more at like the micro and meso level of human services. They provide direct service. They provide case management. They hold evidence-based parenting classes and groups, things like that. If a family gets referred to DCF but doesn't qualify for DCF services, oftentimes they get referred to the Family Resource Center.
Ah, okay.
Where Community Connections tends to work more at that meso and macro level. So that's where like our resource guide and resource navigation comes in. And we respond to emerging needs in the community. So, for example, when all the refugees came a couple of years ago, it was United Neighbors and the Family Resource Center that were boots on the ground, going out to the hotels, coordinating vaccination clinics, bringing extra supplies, helping with the immigration paperwork, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow.
So whenever there's something going on in the community that nobody else is really paying attention to or mobilizing around, that's kind of where we step in. And the intention is not to hold on to it. We're infrastructure builders. So we might start an initiative and then 3 months, 6 months down the road, hand it off to another organization for sustainability and for the capacity building. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea.
2 days are never the same.
I keep hearing that.
Yeah.
Doing these interviews. Yeah. So interesting. A couple things stood out to me. So funded through DCF funds. So that's interesting, right? Because I think a lot of folks, understandably so, might look at something like DCF and say, well, they only get involved when there's already been a problem. But this funding is kind of meant to be a little more preventative, right?
Yep.
So funding flows to you. That way you're able to get involved with some of these families.
Right. Without the stigma of DCF attached to, yes,
Right,
exactly.
Right. And you're able to kind of help the whole family and help whatever they might be going through, not just what brought them to DCF. Is that fair?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then part of your work is funding, managing the Family Resource Center?
Not me.
Not you.
In some communities, the Community Connections Coalition and the Family Resource Center are housed together.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like in New Bedford, for example, the United Way is their fiscal agent for both. And they both share the same physical space. I believe it's the same up in like the Brockton area.
Sure. Okay.
But here in Fall River, the Family Resource Center has a different fiscal agent than I do, and we're in two different physical spaces.
Okay.
But in some communities, the way the grant is it's really community need dependent. So depending on what the community needs, what infrastructure is already existing, that will kind of dictate the structure of the Community Connections and the Family Resource Center.
Okay.
So.
All right. I mean, can you tell us what might be going on at the Family Resource Center, like on a given day?
Yes. So they have evidence-based parenting classes. They do, I believe in Fall River, they do parenting journeys. They also have a diaper pantry for those families that have done an intake with the Family Resource Center. They also do kind of like just fun stuff too. Like this month, there's a dad trivia night. Yeah. There's a dad trivia night. They host the Grandparents Raising Grandchildren Support Group. They also do they have like a teen night. The spot, it's like that tween age, that middle school,
That awkward
preteen. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And just other fun things depending on, they have a chess club that's very popular. They meet twice a month. So yeah, just different. We actually have collaborated this month. We have the Office of Economic Empowerment coming down to do some financial literacy
great.
Education and outreach. And later this month, for the Grandparents Raising Grandchildren group, we have the Children's Advocacy Center coming in to do a digital safety workshop.
Oh, super important. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Great. And where's that located?
So the Family Resource Center is located at Greater Fall River Recreation, which is 45 Rock Street.
Yeah.
The Family Resource Center is up on second floor.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So it's like a block away from City Hall.
Yeah, no, it's right in the thick of it. I used to have an office right across the street.
Okay.
On Rock Street, and I was amazed really at the crowds that would pour in there for certain events, and it always seemed to be a healthy stream of people coming in and taking advantage of the support over there.
Yeah.
So
well, REC is great too, because REC has their own programs, plus the Balanced Learning Center that does a lot of work with neurodivergent kids and is very inclusive program. So it's not only neurodivergent kids that attend, and then Youth Build is there too. Yeah. So yeah, lots of good stuff going on at REC. Yeah. I'm trying to get over there.
Yeah, I it was really actually encouraging on a daily basis to see so many people doing good work, right next door. I will admit that the lack of parking sometimes would be frustrating.
True.
But it was a price worth paying to know that the work was being done. So, well, thank you for that, and thank you for speaking on the Resource Center. I think it's good for people to know, what's happening on that ground level. So now, like you say, really a lot of the work of United Neighbors is then zooming out and doing some bigger picture work. One of your main tenets of your organization is this resource guide. Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit about the resource guide?
Absolutely. So the resource guide contains, I don't know. It's 38 pages long. It's all Greater Fall River resources. The first page is a lot of like your 800 hotline numbers or whatever. But then the rest of the book is Greater Fall River resources. And there's everything there from like abuse, be it child abuse, domestic violence, elder abuse, whatever. There's food pantry information. There's resources for folks with disabilities. There's resources for LGBTQ. There's mental health resources listed in there. There's veteran services listed in there. You name it, we pretty much have it in that guide. So,
and it's meant to be, kind of like how you spoke about in your life. You when you were in an hour of need, you lacked kind of a central place to go for all this information, but it's meant to be that for people now. This booklet, that where can people find it?
So it's in print in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole at United Neighbors and at a lot of community service agencies across the city. We actually distribute about 10,000 guides a year.
Wow, great.
But you can also find it on our website, which is www.unfr.org. So United Neighbors Fall River,
right.
unfr.org.
I'll splash that across the screen. Don't worry about that.
And the guide, so there's a PDF version on the website that you can download, but all of the content of the guide is text on our website, and we have the Google Translate widget installed on our website. So if there's somebody that needs language capacity other than Spanish, Portuguese, or Haitian Creole, they can do so by going to the website. Wow, so we have like Khmer and Arabic and Chinese and so.
Which is amazing because, you would think chances are some of the folks who might need those resources the most are folks who might not speak the language, right? So, that's brilliant. Great. So, and I'm sure a lot of work goes into making sure that stays current and accurate. You want to take a little bit of credit for that?
Boy, does it. I do, actually, because when I started at United Neighbors 5 years ago, I inherited the resource guide.
Yes, yeah.
But I kind of revamped it, redesigned it a little bit, and then I had a really great intern, and her and I went through that resource guide with a fine-tooth comb to verify, like, phone numbers, organization names, because you know how, like, South Coast Health might acquire this private practice or this program, or different programs change different organizations.
Or people
based
move
on the funding.
offices, yeah.
Right, exactly. So we went through it with a fine-tooth comb. The first year or two that I was there, we were updating it about quarterly. Now I'm down to an annual update.
Okay,
so,
good, yeah.
A call goes out in our newsletter. We have a weekly newsletter. A call goes out in the newsletter to, send your updates in for the guide. I let folks take about a month to fill out the paperwork and everything. And then I update the guide over the course of the month or so. We try to get it updated over the summertime so it's ready for back to school, because we make sure that all the schools have resource guides for the start of the school year.
Yeah,
so.
Great. Yeah, that's huge. I love that it's all that information in one place, because when you're in an hour of need, especially if it's in any way, a bit of a crisis, anytime you have to spend just acquiring the information is time you're not really getting what you need, right? Time is kind of the essence for a lot of these situations.
I think people underestimate, like when I was a single mother and utilizing services, you never know what you're going to get when you go to an office, right? Somebody could be super empathetic and very nice and very helpful. And some people can be very condescending and make you feel even more crappy about your situation than you already do. The nice thing about the resource guide is that you can explore resources on your own terms. And then decide, or, maybe ask a friend, hey, this organization helps with this. Have you ever used them? Do you know anything about them? So it helps build that rapport.
Yeah. Great. Well, in an increasingly digital, time, right? I'm in the position sometimes as a therapist or just somebody who cares about people is I'll hop on Google and try and get information for people. And I'm always shocked at how difficult it is and how frustrating it can be, because the first 5 or 6 results are going to be
sponsored.
Sponsored. It's going to be BetterHelp and Talkspace and all this nonsense, and then maybe you'll get a few good results, and then the page ends. You might get results from 5 years ago. I recently saw an event that was coming up, or I thought was coming up. It happened 5 years ago, and I'm about to tell a client, to go check this thing out. It's like,
oops,
they would have shown up to nothing. So that, I would have looked like a real clown. So yeah, having information pretty much at your fingertips, accurate information, local information that local folks who care, have compiled for you. I think that's a huge asset to folks. That's great work you guys are doing. Tell me a bit more. There's a couple more kind of like flagship programs for you guys that I think deserve some attention, and I think especially considering some of the discourse that I see and hear in the city these days. It's really important for people to know that this work is going on. So the first thing that hit my eye was the home project. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So that is essentially a free thrift store for anybody in transition. So transitioning from unsheltered into stable housing. And unsheltered could look like a lot of things. It's not necessarily just folks that have been in the encampments. It could be somebody coming out of incarceration. It could be somebody coming out of a residential treatment facility. It could be a woman from like the Women's Center, who, was going through DV. It could be a foster youth aging out of the system. So that has been around since about 2016, I want to say. Which I just ran with it when I started working at United Neighbors, because little known fact, I started the Environmental Awareness Club when I was in high school. So this speaks to my, that whole reuse, repurpose, that kind of thing. Right, exactly. Good. So I love that component to it. And so
anybody who's in transition can...
Yep, they can just have one of their caseworkers contact us. It could be any caseworker. It could be a SNAP caseworker. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a housing caseworker. They just contact us. We're open by appointment. household goods, things like sheets, towels, pots and pans, curtains, a little bit of home decor, no furniture. We don't have the space for that.
Yeah. So no big footprint items.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. My brother's keeper out of Dartmouth actually does furniture.
Oh, they've been doing great work for a long time, yeah.
So by law, anybody who is getting a new apartment, a new house or whatever, only has to have a mattress for each person in the family. A mattress, not even a full bed, box spring mattress, bed frame, any of that, just a mattress. So, and we know, with the cost of rent right now, and then first, last, security.
Oh, brutal. Yeah.
All of that stuff. How do you then get sheets for that mattress or towels or, a pan to make dinner with? So.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so where do those items come from generally? Just Good Samaritans?
We tend to get a lot of linens actually from Mattook through the United Way.
Really? Okay, great.
So there's some pretty good stuff down there.
Yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah.
Wow, great.
And then every third Saturday of the month, we're actually open for donations and for volunteer opportunities. So that's kind of the home project. It's kind of that threefold. Yeah. It's not just helping those in transition. It's also about building community with the volunteers. We get a lot of high school and college kids who need community service hours.
Sure.
And not the bad kind, the kind for their...
Well, those count too.
The kind for honor society or their college application or whatever.
Sure.
And then there's that environmental component. So, yeah.
So you said the third Saturday?
The third Saturday of the month from 10 to 12.
And what is that?
We don't publish the address.
Okay.
Just because we're only there by appointment, so we don't want folks to leave stuff. But you can always contact us at the main office at 209 Bedford Street.
Okay.
That's United
So
Neighbors'
if
main
somebody
office.
wanted to donate items,
they could give us a
you?
call,
Gotcha.
email us, information on the website, www.unfr.org. Yes.
And there it goes again. I'll put it up on the screen. Great. Well, that's tremendous work. Yeah, that kind of gets glossed over. Mm-hmm. I think, the idea of helping the unhoused, the folks in transition, you put the roof over their head and sometimes, oftentimes the conversation ends there, but it's much more complicated. And just because, somebody has a roof over their head, it doesn't mean it's, any closer to becoming a home for a family, right? There's just certain things we all need. Yeah, what a beautiful idea for a program.
And preserving that dignity.
Yeah.
That's why we have some home decor there too, because people are like, "Oh, you don't need that as soon as you move in." Yeah, but everybody wants to go in and make it feel like their space,
Everybody wants a mirror, by the door.
Right, exactly.
Sure, their hair's not out of place.
There's some artwork, a little table lamp.
No, the dignity piece is huge, and just because somebody's fallen on hard times or has, undergone some sort of major, life transition, that they're still deserving of all that dignity and respect. And I think if we as a community can help them do that, I mean, how often do we, throw stuff away or maybe bring it to one of those, donation bins on the side of the road.
Or take it to Savers, who donates their proceeds to the boys and Big Brothers and Sisters of Rhode Island. Yeah. So if you take your stuff to the Fall River Savers, it's not even benefiting Fall River.
No, I didn't know that.
They're giving it to Rhode Island. Yeah.
And of course, I think some of the local churches do great work in that as well. But so many of us, I think, I know I've done it, take kind of that easy way out and drop it off at the Salvation Army or Savers or one of the bins on the side of the road where you don't know where these things are going. And, somebody on the other side might be making money off it, where you can really help out a neighbor, somebody who's really in a tough spot. So that's a beautiful thing. All right, so that is actually only part one of my conversation with Kerrie. We had such a good long conversation that there's actually so much content here, I'm going to split it up into 2 episodes. You'll have to tune back in a couple of weeks when the second half of this episode drops. I hope so far in this episode, you, like me, are impressed with Kerrie's journey and also the work of the organization. You're going to learn a lot more about projects that are underway, projects that may be coming, and you'll learn about how you can get involved and support the organization and its work in the next half of the episode. As always, I want to thank you for watching and listening, being a part of our community, and for spreading the word about this program and what you're learning when you watch and listen. As I've told you before, word of mouth is the best advertising we have and is the best way to build a coalition of folks who are trying to make a difference and make our community better. Until next time, my name is Owen, and this has been Fall River State of Mind. We'll see you soon.